Our next panel, so we've had Aegis, we've had Havas, we've had Interpublic. Our next panelist, which is our last one before lunch, is WPP. So I want to welcome to the stage very quickly Todd Anderman, my good friend and Chief Revenue Officer at Jumptap, and the panelists. You could please make your way to the stage. I know you're back in the green room somewhere with WPP. And burgers at 12:45. But this is going to be a great panel, guys. So, Todd, take it away.
I feel good with it on. I feel more important with it on. That's what it's Sure.
Okay, if everyone could be seated, we got one panel before lunch. A great panel.
An awesome panel.
All right, an awesome panel. Yes, thank you.
Just helping you
Everyone,
out.
take your seats, please. Going once, twice. All right, Todd, all yours.
You ready for us, Paran? Okay, thanks, everyone. Always fun to do the panel right before lunch. So, yeah, exactly. It's better before cocktail hour or during cocktail hour. So, thanks everyone for being here. We have a great group here from WPP, the key leadership here at the team. There you go. So let me just go right ahead with the introductions. Immediately to my right, we have Michael Collins, the CEO of Joule, Mark Silber, Executive Creative Director of Joule, Adam Potashnick, SVP Americas, Media Director of Mediacom, and also expecting a baby any minute. So he's got the beeper going.
So we'll be brief.
And Vic Kathuria, EVP Managing Partner GroupM Mediacom. So let's jump right into it. We're here at the mobile upfronts, and the upfronts, it's always about securing that best inventory out there and creating scarcity around that inventory. So we've done a good job of creating some scarcity of seats in the room here. But are we there yet in mobile? Is mobile at the point that there really are mobile upfronts?
So I'll take that. I think it's interesting in terms of when you talk about upfronts and so a lot of time when you think of upfronts, right, the term came from TV obviously like 40, 50 years ago, right? But I think it was the auto guys that started off back in the 50 years ago. So from our perspective, it's upfronts, equates scarcity. And we believe the interesting analogy I would draw is, I think all of you were probably part to some degree or another of the digital new fronts that happened in the past 2 weeks. It was Yahoo, AOL, MSN, YouTube, right? So, and what was interesting again there was, it was a great venue to talk about and exchange ideas and a great forum to do that, right? But anytime, if the goal is to create the illusion of scarcity, where from our perspective, we don't believe one exists. So whether there was digital video back then and now we're talking mobile. So scarcity, no. Exchange of ideas and solutions. And again, maybe for certain clients, it might make sense. Yes.
One other thing that, and by the way, if you couldn't decipher Vic's very long, impressive title, he's the guy in charge of trading. So talking about upfronts and scarcity, he's the guy to make sure we avoid all those things. From an industry standpoint, I think from the mobile industry, we have, I think there are a set number of clients that have committed mobile. It's part of their marketing mix. They are in the market for the course of the year, but a very large chunk, probably a good majority of the mobile industry, isn't yet at the point with their commitment to the channel or their ability to use the channel where they are in the market for a full year. So having an upfront just doesn't necessarily make sense for brands who are only doing spot buys, who are only in the market on campaign by campaign basis, and aren't looking to invest for the whole year. So, as Vic said, I think you said it very well. As far as coming together to exchange ideas, absolutely. The idea of an upfront to create scarcity from an agency's perspective isn't great to start with. And for mobile, while we're certainly there yet in its use of a channel, the number of brands who are making year-long significant commitments is not necessarily at the point where that would support a full upfront similar to what we've seen in the past with a channel like television.
Well, what about the ones that are making significant investments? Where are they shifting budget from? Where is the mobile budget coming from?
So Hey, good morning or good afternoon, everyone. So my name is Adam Potashnick. I lead the Dell account over at Mediacom. And specifically for Dell, I mean, we look at mobile as a means because we know that the path to transact and the role of media is shifting. And we have to be able to make real-time decisions on how our customers are engaging with media on a daily basis. And ultimately, the dollars are coming from all different channels. I'm not going to stand here today and say that dollars are coming specifically from online or we're moving dollars from TV. I think there's always opportunities across all of our business units to find dollars that are going to work just as hard and give even greater performance in the mobile space. And we've seen that across the board on many of the campaigns that we're working on with our client Dell and with the team up here at Joule. So, dollars are naturally growing in the mobile space. We are investing year over year more and more dollars, not just in brand campaigns, but we're doing a lot of e-commerce campaigns as well, and the performance is just phenomenal. So we're doing a lot of great tests across the board, and for Dell specifically, dollars are growing year over year in the mobile space.
So to I think Adam's point, I think it really is about not what channel the dollars might be coming from, but more around the lines of what are the KPIs and what the audience is, and each audience based off the campaign and business unit might differ. So that's what really determines in terms of the allocation at the end of the day, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, I can even look at one of our latest campaigns called the Power to Do More. It was Dell's first corporate initiative in its 28-year history. And when we were looking at just pure rich media on the mobile, on smartphones and on tablets versus just rich media across the board on display, the engagement on mobile was so much greater, so much larger. I'd say at least 3 to 5 times greater on the mobile device, on smartphones or on tablet. So dollars are just naturally flowing to mobile just because we're seeing the engagement there, we're seeing the conversions, and it's not just in the engagement of the banner, but it's really the post-engagement as well. So after someone actually is touching the banner or engaging with it, what they're doing then on the mobile destination is so much more, they're spending so much more time, and we're finding ways to optimize on a cost per engagement versus just buying media on a CPC.
The engagement, I think that's a great lead-in for Mark in a conversation about creative. And there was an article that came out a couple of months ago, a pretty controversial one in Adweek, entitled, "Do Mobile Ads Still Suck?" I don't know if you all saw that, but very interesting. So, Mark?
Yes, I'm personally offended by that. Are there any agency creative people in this room? So I can say whatever I want, right?
Yeah.
Are there anybody in this room who actually deals in mobile with creative, looks at creative, reviews creative? All right, that guy in the front. So, the thing I think that you have to think about, it is true. I mean, you ask anybody about advertising on your mobile device, and they say something like, "I hate those. I hate getting ads on my phone." But when you think about it, people say that about advertising in any medium, right? TV commercials interrupting my program and so on. And they've said it in online too. The key to liking any advertising for a consumer is if it's relevant, right? I mean, every good ad begins with a good strategy that says something meaningful at an appropriate moment to a particular audience. What I think we have to start thinking about mobile as being able to do is we really know a lot about who the end user, who that recipient of our ad is. We know something about where this person is, and I don't just mean in a Big Brother kind of like we're tracking you where you are, but we kind of know where you are in some sort of life journey that you're having day to day. We can serve you something that's incredibly relevant, and even if you're one of those people who say, "I hate advertising on my phone," you might actually like it. For instance, if you're walking into the Apple store, say, and we've geo-fenced that, and we serve you when you open up your web browser on your phone, we serve you a very good offer from Dell Computer, suddenly that's not an interrupting, your business moment. That is something that's like, well, maybe I didn't realize that Dell has an excellent competitor to the MacBook Air, and it's a fraction of the price. Suddenly that ad, however it's creatively designed, we have to think of creative as being bigger than just what's the design and so on, and really think about how do we say something relevant to a person at a particular moment in time. And after that, yes, then you need great design, and there's lots of good standards and guidelines for what, where you should put the logo and things that make sort of mobile ads just better from a user experience standpoint. But it really all begins with thinking about, why are we doing this in mobile for now? It's not just taking an ad from somewhere else and putting it on mobile.
So I think that's a great example of using the context of the location and the time and just local targeting to make a piece of creative come to life. How about the actual creative itself? And examples of what you've seen that's working and what we need to do to get better as an industry.
I mean, I think this is a new medium still. I know some of us, Michael's been working in mobile for like 12 years somehow, but it's still a new medium in terms of, he worked on mobile when it was still like those big phones in the back of the car and stuff, and they had their own like dolly that you wheeled them around. I don't know why you did that. When I'm old enough to remember when there was no online and we had to invent what online advertising looked like. And some of those first things we did in online were just terrible. I mean, we all, if you worked in digital, we sort of built sort of brochureware websites and just took the client's catalog and put it up. Not because we couldn't think of anything else, but because just everything was sort of moving very quickly. It's like, well, we need to put something up. Let's take this content that exists. I think we make this same mistake a lot in mobile, where somebody brings you, I mean, I've seen no shortage of companies that come in to show us, here's this great conversion tool we have that takes your Flash ad and turns it into HTML5. Now, it's great to have that as a tool, but in no way is that a creative solution to something, because it doesn't do any of the stuff we talked about in the previous example, where it thinks about, what is my user doing right now, and how do I fit in a way that adds value to that experience? A story I like to tell, I wasn't not so old that I was back when they invented television, but the first television ads, nobody had figured out how to use TV as like an experiential medium to show a demonstration of a product. The earliest TV commercials, they basically took a radio script and a good-looking announcer with a great voice stood up and read that script into the camera for 60 seconds. You can imagine how that, over time got superseded by really sort of like experiential commercials. Actually, Procter & Gamble, a previous client of mine, that sort of invented a way to demonstrate how a product works. They invented how TV is going to be a great selling tool. We're still getting to the point where we need to invent how mobile becomes a great selling tool. I think we're getting closer every day, but all of you in this room, whatever exactly your roles are, need to contribute to that process and be asking questions. Why are we doing this ad the way we're doing it here in mobile? That's what I keep asking. Every day.
It was interesting. I think a couple of analogies that you drew. First was, I draw the analogy of the baseball game, so I think I hear this all the time from social advertising and Facebook, right? You were in the second inning, so I'm guessing mobile is probably the first inning we should try to figure out, right? So, and you're, I think, spot on in terms of trying to figure out the best practices and sort of what works, right? So going back to the DR and sort of the spam back then, and now here we are trying to figure out. I think the conversation from our perspective, from the agency side, right, is, I'm assuming a lot of you folks in the room are probably on the publisher sides, right? So we need to call on our clients or call on us or actually Adam and the media teams, right? Really, it's more about keep in mind how you frame the conversation. So it's not really about here's that network, here's a premium publisher, or here's rich media and here's banners. It's really more about come to us with sort of two things, right? One is not only the solution, but more importantly, give us some evidence that you've understood our business. So whether you're calling on Dell or Volkswagen or Bayer, you need to do your homework, know the category, know what some of the challenges are in the marketplace, and sort of be creative as well as smart in terms of what solution is your specific channel, in this case, mobile offering, and why, right? And I think that's really important. Just don't come to me and give me that mobile's hot, and because Miriam Meeker says mobile's hot. Of course, she's people out. She's a VC, right? She invests in mobile, but I think as clients, as agencies, we believe that absolutely there's room for mobile. So if you look at the stats alone, they're overwhelming, right? 500 million smartphones, 6.5 billion, again with the B, registered cell phone users, right? So numbers are staggering. So the scale is there, right? The question really is, how do you frame the conversation? And then how do you actually approach us in a creative, intelligent way where you demonstrate to us that you actually understand our business and are solving a specific, sort of problem. I think that from our perspective would sort of carry you a lot further in conversations as opposed to, here's a cool technology and here I am, yet another, premium publisher network or a video ad network. That again, we've been there, done that, right? That doesn't really differentiate you.
Yeah, it's great advice. Actually, since there are a lot of salespeople here, let's see a show of hands. How many people are in sales here in the room? Okay. All right. Other advice for the people who will be calling on you guys?
Sure, just one. I I think one thought to throw out there, and you know, mobile is new. There are a lot of people coming in this space, but one sort of the running joke we have internally is you know, we sort of judge mobile sales reps as the ones who know mobile and the ones who don't. We continue to be amazed that the ones who are going to get traction, the ones who show a good knowledge of the channel, how it can be used, and what, you know, how we can start extracting some value. We have, you know, the number of media sales reps who come in start talking about great click-through rates. Just missing the point. You know, click-through rates are not, you know, this isn't television we're buying here. It's not about the impression. It's about engagement. It's about dialogue. Show us how the properties you bring in, and what you're bringing to us, does what mobile does well. Gives us deeper engagement, gives us more dialogue, gives us a way to connect with our consumers. A 50-pixel high banner, that's not a TV spot. That's not a center spread in a magazine. It's not, the value there is not in the impression. It's what happens all around that. So I think anybody who's talking to the agencies and talking to the clients who can show, again, who aren't trying to sell us online called mobile, but actually selling us the true attributes of mobile can do well, those are the ones who are going to have great success.
I think an example to Michael's point is, I mean, working with publishers and networks, right? So we worked with a company called Jumptap, and we're doing a great campaign with Subway right now. And again, it's interesting. So we're using everything from sort of day parting to, you know, third-party data to target info, and so the solution they basically came up with was really creative, and they demonstrated that they understood not only the product, but what the business challenge was, and then came up with a really sort of smart, data-driven, creative solution with the right KPIs, right? So that's, again, to Michael's point, relevant metrics and come up with a solution, as well as a strategy that incorporates data, as well as understands our client's business, and you will get the business. So I think that's another example of sort of what works and sort of makes life easier for us and helps you guys get the business.
Great. So another bold statement that came out earlier this year was from one of the sponsors, ESPN, where ESPN came out and said, mobile is the first screen, which is a great statement. Do any advertisers look at mobile as the first screen yet?
Well, I think they're getting there. If I may take a moment, I brought a handy visual aid, which none of you in the room will be able to see, but
That's what creative guys do, by the way.
I wasn't able to come up with any words that would explain. So what I've got here is sort of a user experience journey, and you don't have to be able to see it. There's a bunch of apps that are being shown, and the point I'm trying to make is this is something that we developed. It's sort of the way we handle Paramount Pictures. We do a lot of movie marketing for them. If you think about mobile as just, you know, here's another place I can stick an ad, with all due respect to the ad networks in the room, I think that you're missing opportunities. And I don't mean I don't mean web versus apps or anything like that. But again, thinking in terms of user experience. So when you think about somebody going to see a movie, you know, maybe they use mobile to interact with a movie poster that they've seen. Maybe they're checking Facebook to see what their friends have said about a movie. They're going to a mobile website to look at you know, trailers and previews. They go to Fandango to buy their movie tickets. Maybe they check in if people are still checking in anymore when they get to the theater. Maybe we hit them with an SMS message offering some free popcorn for, you know, as a thank you for coming to see the movie. When they're done, if you're like me, you immediately tweet your review of that movie, right? And then you check Yelp to see what, you know, restaurants are in this area because you haven't been here before. When you think about all the ways I've used mobile right there in the course of one evening just to see a movie, I don't see how you can look at mobile as anything but the first screen. Believe me, I understand they're going to spend 20 or 50 or $100 million on TV advertising, and I'm not saying that that should change, but I think we need to reorient our thinking and say, people are spending a lot more time with this device just to see a movie than they are seeing the commercial a couple of times on TV. So it's not up to me to reallocate the budget, but I certainly believe that in this particular context, this is something where mobile should be the first place you think to reach your consumers.
Yeah, I think a real world example of that is that if for anybody who's walked into a Best Buy recently, without doubt, and yes, I do this quite often, if you walk into Best Buy now or a Toys R Us, you will see people walking around with their smartphone as a comparative shopping tool. Again, how I did my Christmas shopping, and I hope nobody from Toys R Us is in the audience, is it was 11th hour, big surprise, and all the grandparents and aunts and uncles want to know what to buy the kids, so went around with Amazon with auto recognition, saw what to get the kids, snapped a picture, filled up shopping basket, put on the wish list, pushed it out to the friends, pushed it out to the relatives. They saw it, bought it, present showed up for the kids. Now that Toys R Us, I did all my shopping at Toys R Us, and they didn't get a single one of those transactions. So now within a retail environment, brands don't even own the relationship with their consumers within their own retail environment, within their four walls. So I think that is just one of many opportunities, like movies, like what we're seeing in retail, which is somewhat of a fundamental shift of how brands communicate with their consumers. If Toys R Us and Best Buy was very good at getting on this quickly, but if these brands start ignoring those behaviors, which are now fundamental in virtually all of our lives, their opportunities are going to be missed. Competitive threats are going to pop up. So from that sense, I think absolutely mobile needs to be considered front and center as a first screen.
Yeah, and then, I mean, building on that, I mean, certainly when you think of e-commerce, there's really Amazon and there's Dell. I mean, Dell is the second largest global e-commerce site in the world. And certainly when we look at the key buying periods, it being back to school or holidays, people are in store, just as Michael described. And when they're in store, they're really shopping around. It's like a showroom. There's actually a term called showrooming. They're walking around, trying to see what's out there, what they should buy. But potentially that path to transact or that purchase doesn't happen right then and there. So ultimately for Dell, what we've been doing is we've been doing a conquest strategy. So people that are in these big box retail stores looking at various products, we can then conquest them as they're looking on their mobile phones, doing mobile searches, and allowing them to easily bookmark Dell.com and giving them a very valuable offer that they can then bookmark our site and then make that purchase back at Dell.com versus in the store right then and there. And we're finding ways on a weekly or even daily basis working with Mark and Michael on a daily basis, optimizing and understanding how we could shift dollars into the mobile space to generate more transactions, to generate more performance. You ultimately have to have a brand like Dell that has the optimal landing page experience. And these guys have done a phenomenal job building out a very smart m-commerce platform. And if you're a big e-commerce site and you don't have the m-commerce platform now, you're missing out on a lot of sales and a lot of ways to scale your business online, because people are on the go. They're not just sitting in front of their laptops buying PCs that way. So ultimately, we have the m-commerce platform that we're seeing revenue scale at a great rate. We're also developing out social media platforms as well on Facebook and Twitter and LinkedIn and things like that, all optimizing these experiences for the mobile device as well.
Can I just suggest the other thing when you mentioned mobile first is, don't look at mobile, and I'm sure everyone in this room thinks about this already this way, but don't think of it as like a siloed type thing. There's mobile and there's other media. Mobile is something that interacts with basically all the other media, and really none of the other media have this advantage, right? But mobile's something when you're seeing out of home, you can be interacting with that. We know all about dual usage of tablets and television. Mobile and print have a lot of places they intersect. So I think that a way to think about mobile, I mean, mobile first is a great term, and those of us who work only in mobile really like it. But really, you have to think about mobile as being this kind of like connective tissue that has the ability to activate these other media as well and add value to those, just by the things that mobile inherently does.
Yeah. Another thing that comes to mind is just in the mobile space. I mean, we've seen such great success. We do so many different events around the world, and ultimately, mobile is that interactive device that we engage with our customers and our targeted audience around these events. So it either being owning all the impressions and all the mobile inventory in a given city when the event is happening, or just in the event itself, creating a real optimal experience for people to interact with and engage with our content and the conversation.
So a couple of the examples that I heard were conquesting oriented around retail for e-commerce and m-commerce. So look, flip that over and talk about your traditional retail customers, Macy's, IKEA. I work with a number of them. How do you address this for them who others might be trying to conquest with mobile?
It's a great point. I think Macy's does a great job of that. It's also a client that we work with. They, again, I think we're very early in the game and realize that in their space, consumers, when they show up at their store, they all have a mobile phone in their pocket. So when they do show up, when they are comparative shopping, Macy needs to continue to own that dialogue. When they are here in New York, walking through Herald Square, begin the dialogue, get them through the door, maintain that ongoing interactive dialogue with the consumer from start to finish. Because if Macy's is controlling it, believe me, one of their competitors will. And that is happening now. That's not a wait and see. Again, walk around Best Buy, go into the Apple store, start seeing what comes up. Those conversations are taking place. And as a brand, if you're not owning them, your competitors will. And sort of to take this almost to a macro level, we all know we all know all the mechanic behind search. You are buying relevance. You're buying a set of keywords. Once somebody triggers one of those keywords, you can buy that. You can buy that intention. Location-based, mobile location-based advertising is that same exact mechanic, but applied to the virtual world. So now I'm not buying a keyword. I'm buying a latitude longitude mark. If I'm Lowe's, I'm buying the parking lot at Home Depot. Or I'm buying the road on the way from a population center to Home Depot, so I'm getting people on route. That degree of, that whole search metaphor, that whole idea of buying intention, while previously it's just been located in the digital world, with mobile, that's now coming out into the physical world. And again, as brands, if we're not owning our space, our physical space and our mind space within our clients, no doubt about it, your competitors will.
For someone like Macy's, it should be an enhancement to the in-store shopping experience. So all of you know that your cell phones don't generally work inside these department stores, right? There's for some electronic crazy reason they're jammed by the Soviets. You can't get your signal. So what these stores need to do, in my opinion, if I'm Macy's, I put free Wi-Fi in there. I default you to a Macy's shopping helper app. Maybe it's not the Macy's general website, but I default you to a Macy's webpage that helps you with the in-store shopping experience. So now I've taken you away from just browsing the web and checking your other prices with Amazon or whatever. I've brought you someplace where now I'm actually, again, what I should be doing in a department store, enhancing your shopping experience, and I'm using this device that everyone brought with them anyway.
Let's take a couple of questions from the
Couple
audience.
questions from the audience, guys.
Mic on? Yeah, there we go. All right. For our illustrious WPP panel.
Going once. Oh,
Baron,
we have one here. All right, here you go.
I'm Kurt Brokaw, and I'm the advertising professor at the New School. And my question to you is, like you, my go-to futurist is Bob Greenberg at RGA, who, like you, started out doing movie campaigns back in the 70s, just as I did at Gray in the 60s. And Bob has said that at some point in the next 2 or 3 years, when millions of primetime viewers start watching primetime programs and indeed first-run movies like Titanic and Avatar on primetime television in 3D in their mobile devices, that suddenly the paradigm shift will take place in mobile media with blinding speed that the networks haven't even begun to anticipate. What do you think about that?
What do I think? I think that, sure, I'm not going to contradict what Bob Greenberg says. I certainly think that we're moving in that direction. If just the sort of fragmented way that people watch so many different, ways of watching. No two people are watching the same program or necessarily watching it in the same sort of way. They're watching it on their HBO Go and things like that. So I certainly buy into the idea that there will be multiple ways. I mean, it's basically, there's this big ball called content, and then there's like all these different, ways that you can get at it, whether it's your 3D TV or your tablet or so on. Again, I think our job as advertisers or creatives trying to come up with relevant things to say to people in this medium is to make sure that we're doing just that, to make sure we understand the situation they're in. When someone comes to me with an opportunity to do to do advertising connected to a sync viewing app, I don't just want to put any old ad that I've done there for that client. I want to bring them something that makes them know, I know that you're sitting here doing this, and the thing that I'm saying and the way I'm saying it to you makes more sense. And if I'm doing this well, you will sort of appreciate that, and through the miracle of the way advertising works, over time you're going to have a good opinion of me, rather than just like I've slapped something into place there. So I'm not concerned about that future. I think it sounds exciting. It keeps making our job interesting, but also complicated, because we have to keep thinking about new ways people are new places they'll be, new ways they're using stuff.
My motto is never disagree with Bob Greenberg.
He's actually spoken here. But any other questions before we break for lunch?
There's a guy.
There's another one. I love this. Wow. All right.
Hi, my name's Paul Yates. I work at MediaVest. So you guys were mentioning with mobile that engagement is where kind of mobile's biggest strength lies. But let's say your main objective is awareness. Let's say you have a new program. I still think mobile plays a role in awareness, but where do you think mobile plays that awareness role?
Sure, absolutely. Mobile plays a tremendous role in awareness. I think just to clarify, to be very clear, I think click-through rate is not a measure of engagement. engagement in mobile. Again, banners are small. They are not nearly. They alone aren't a very deep brand engagement. So if you're looking, for instance, a banner plus a click to a landing page, the landing page plus 2 pages of content consumed, that depth of that engagement can get very deep, way beyond the banner. And the value of the impression that the banner is delivering in that example is very small, 5%, 10% of the total engagement delivered. So I think that with that engagement, that is going to raise your awareness metrics. That's going to raise your consideration metrics. That's going to get the consumer way down the funnel. But I think mobile's not online. It's not television. It's not print. It needs to be measured as such. What mobile does very well is in a very intimate, personal environment with the phone or the tablet a few inches from your face. You can take over that full screen and have a very strong brand statement. Getting the consumer involved with it, as opposed to just seeing a 50-pixel high banner that's tough for any of us to read, even those out here there with younger eyes than me, is that's not where the value is. It's that deeper engagement which is really delivering the value.
All right. Any more questions? Going
Nope.
once?
Nobody here from Joule wants to toss us a softball?
Come on, at least one? No?
Sure.
All right.
I guess-
That was
I guess
give
he
me a
said no.
softball now. All right. Well, let's give the panel a big round of applause. Thank you, guys. All right. Quick housekeeping. So we have Nathan's Hot Dogs and Burgers. I didn't know they made burgers, but apparently they do.